Hey, beautiful people. Stephanie Kawaja here. Today, we're going to be diving into something that might completely change how you think about your fat loss journey. So, if you are watching this and you feel like you're doing everything right, okay, you're counting your calories, you're following all the plans, you're getting your workouts in, but you still feel stuck, I need you to hear this because the number one reason you're not seeing results is not what you think, okay? And trust me, as someone who's been there and worked with countless women through this, I'm about to share a very big breakthrough moment for you. So let's get real for a moment. Now, your relationship with food might be the invisible barrier holding you back. I know what you're thinking, but Steph, I have a perfectly normal relationship with food. Here is the thing though. Many of us don't realize that our relationship with food is more complicated than we think. And just sharing something personal, years ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I was doing everything by the book, but I was constantly thinking about food. I felt guilty for being hungry if I had just eaten. I felt like I needed to earn certain foods through exercise. So, if any of this is sounding familiar to you, then this really might be the thing that's holding you back. Because at the end of the day, if we're constantly stressing about food, we're constantly restricting ourselves, then we're overeating and we feel like we've messed up on our diet. It's really not the diet that's getting in the way. It's actually this mindset to food that's causing us to restrict, to overcompensate, undercompensate, and just creating this cycle that's actually getting in the way of your progress. So here are some signs you might recognize that maybe will help you see that your relationship with food is really getting in the way. So, first of all, you might categorize entire days as good or bad based on what you ate. You might avoid going to social situations that involve food. You could feel guilty or anxious eating foods without knowing the exact calories. You might feel guilty if you don't finish everything on your plate. That's the other end of it. You're constantly thinking about your next meal. If you're not along to like any of these, then you're not alone because these are all things that I went through when I was trying to figure out my fitness journey and get the body that I really wanted. So, here's what gets interesting. Your relationship with food affects your body in ways that you actually don't realize. So, first of all, let's talk about stress. When you're anxious about food, your body releases cortisol. And this isn't just me saying this, this is research that has constantly shown that psychological stress affects our hunger signals. And also, it affects how your body stores fat. So, think about it. Have you ever noticed how much more you crave foods when you're stressed? Think about when you're tired. So, then there's sleep, which is a good segue. When you're lying in bed, maybe you're feeling guilty about what you ate, or you're planning tomorrow's perfect diet. You're not getting the good quality sleep your body needs. And not to mention, if we're only focusing on low calorie meals and they're not always nutritious, then your body is not getting the nutrients it needs, which is going to actually impact your sleep. And poor sleep quality doesn't just make you tired, it impacts your hunger hormones. So when we're tired, we are more irritable, we tend to make more impulsive decisions around food, and it's that cycle that keeps repeating. So with one of my clients, and actually this is just one out of many, I'm going to call her Sarah just for the purpose of like confidentiality, but she came to me, she was so frustrated because she couldn't lose weight. And despite doing everything right, what she felt like, she was waking up in the middle of the night, she was rolling around, she had really a lot of anxiety, so she was actually restricting around food, and then she couldn't restrict anymore. It wasn't sustainable, and then she'd binge and overeat on the weekends. Even if it wasn't per se binging, in her mind, she was going way overboard. She felt like her progress was ruined, and then come Monday, she actually tried to eat the lowest calorie meals again, and then the cycle just kept continuing, and she just constantly was unhappy with her body. She was miserable. She was unhappy because she was always stressing about food, and it stopped her from seeing the results that she wanted to see. So, let's talk about some subtle signs that your relationship with food is actually holding you back. So, number one, you probably overcomplicate simple meals because healthy food needs to be complex. You maybe only feel comfortable eating in perfect conditions. You're already planning how to make up for food like before you've even eaten it. So if you know you're going out to dinner on the weekend and you know that you're trying to avoid eating pasta, or what can you do if I'm going to an Italian restaurant? How can I make up for this? You might think exercise is a punishment rather than a celebration. And you might even wait until you're extremely hungry to eat because you should wait a little bit longer. So I see these patterns all the time, and I've lived through many of them myself. And out of the 100 plus women that I've coached, they're actually way more common than you think. So here's where everything changes and what we can actually do. We need to shift our entire approach around food and our bodies. So what I like to do, I like to think of like food neutrality first. So this really means removing labels of like good or bad. And I know this can sound really scary because inherently, yes, sure, maybe there are foods that are better for us health-wise and, worse for us health-wise. But if we're looking at it from the lens of fat loss only, there is really no one food that is going to make you gain weight. I say this to my clients all the time, but you could quite literally eat ice cream every single day. And if you were in a calorie deficit, you would still lose weight. So when we're looking at it from the perspective of weight loss, there really is no good or bad foods. It really does come down just to the calorie deficit. So when we stop seeing food as forbidden, you're going to have that lose the emotional power over you, and it's going to help you build trust with food and also yourself. And that's where the next step comes in, actually building trust with your body. So your body isn't trying to sabotage you, it's actually trying to help you survive. And when we skip meals, when we stress about food, when we avoid eating because we're worried how it's going to impact our progress, this is actually building distrust with your body. And so one of the really great ways that we can actually build trust again with ourselves and our food is actually considering having meal times. So having smaller meals consistently throughout the day rather than saving our calories for later because we're worried that we're going to overeat. And when we do this, we build more trust. We start to see that our hunger cues will come back. We start to feel less tired, less lethargic throughout the day. We don't have food on our mind all the time. And that relationship begins to build again. So the key is really learning to work with your body and not against it. So making things a little bit more practical here and just giving you some easy tips to actually focus on. There are some daily practices that you can do, and I actually recommend doing these with all my clients. So first of all, doing a morning body check-in. So before you do anything else, just take 30 seconds to ask how you're feeling physically and emotionally. If you're feeling tired, if you're feeling stressed, then what this is going to help you do is it's going to help you say, okay, I'm feeling really stressed today. One of my natural impulses when I'm stressed is to go to food. And if I'm feeling stressed, are there different ways that I can figure out how to handle my stress than to go to food as a coping mechanism? Number 2, the hunger scale. So rate your hunger from a scale of 1 to 10 before eating. Try not to eat anywhere past a 7 or an 8 so that you can see how your hunger really feels, and aim to eat at a 3 or a 4. If you're waiting till a 1 to eat, then you're waiting way too long in between meals. And if you're already at a 7 or 8, then you're probably not that hungry and you're more so just eating out of boredom. These aren't just quick fixes. They're obviously foundational changes that are going to take some time. It's not a 7-day transformation. In the first few weeks, you might feel uncomfortable, and building a relationship with food that's really good will take time, but it is truly the key and crucial step for you to have a sustainable and healthy fat loss journey. Now, if you're someone that doesn't struggle with relationship with food at all right now, and you're seeing, challenges with your fat loss, then there's probably other things where you're maybe just not in a calorie deficit, and that's really likely what it is, or you're not training intensity. But if before we get to those key advanced things, we really need to look at what is your mindset and relationship to food like. So a few things we can actually expect throughout this journey. You can expect reduced food anxiety, better sleep, constant energy, and also sustainable fat loss along the way. So the scale is not going to necessarily drop dramatically in the first week, but if you start building these healthy habits, then when you actually are ready for fat loss, you might even lose fat in the process. But once you're ready for fat loss, it's going to feel so much easier and way more simple because you're not going to have the added stress and anxiety of food on your mind all the time. So I know this might feel overwhelming. Shifting this mindset is not going to be something that happens overnight. And that's exactly why I created the Diet Breakup Club. So it's a 4-module course and guide to help women through this exact process to help you end the overeating and build a peaceful relationship with food, all while achieving your fat loss goals in a sustainable way. So if you're ready to dive deeper into everything we've talked about, I'll link it below. But Either way, just remember your relationship with food is worth healing and is going to be so much better for you long term to spend the time on this now so you don't continue in this yo-yo diet cycle. And if this resonated with you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to more content so that you can continue to reach your fat loss goals effortlessly and step into the highest version of you. Thank you for being here. You've got this. I will see you in the next video.